The fireworks hadn't even started when Marcus Thompson spotted the small figure huddled beneath the old stone bridge, knees drawn to his chest, trying to disappear into the shadows. What the 7-year-old boy whispered next would haunt Marcus for the rest of his life. "Please don't tell them I'm alive." Before we dive into the story, make sure to smash subscribe, because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. Marcus Thompson had been walking this same path along Riverside Park every New Year's Eve for 3 years now. It was his tradition, his moment of solitude before the midnight chaos. His 9-year-old daughter Jasmine was safe at home with his mother, probably already asleep despite her protests that she wanted to see the fireworks. The divorce had been finalized exactly 3 years ago on New Year's Day, and somehow walking this frozen path had become his way of marking time, of reminding himself how far they'd come. The temperature had dropped below 20 degrees, and his breath came out in white puffs that disappeared into the darkness. Most people were gathered downtown for the celebrations, leaving the park eerily quiet, except for the distant sound of music and laughter carried on the wind. He pulled his wool coat tighter, the same one his ex-wife had bought him during better times. He kept meaning to replace it, but never did. That's when he saw a flash of movement beneath the old railroad bridge that crossed over the walking path. At first, he thought it was a dog or maybe some trash blowing in the wind, but as he got closer, his steps slowed. There, pressed against the cold stone foundation, was a small boy. The child couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. He wore a thin jacket that looked 2 sizes too big, no gloves, and sneakers that had seen better days. His dark skin had taken on an ashy pallor from the cold, and his eyes, those eyes would stay with Marcus forever. They were wide with a kind of terror that no child should know. Marcus stopped about 10 feet away, not wanting to scare him. He slowly lowered himself to a crouch, making himself smaller, less threatening. Years of being a single dad had taught him how to approach frightened children. "Hey there, buddy," Marcus said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's pretty cold out here. You okay?" The boy pressed himself harder against the stone, as if he could melt into it and disappear. His lips were chapped and trembling, whether from cold or fear, Marcus couldn't tell. "My name's Marcus," he continued, staying where he was. "I've got a daughter about your age. Her name's Jasmine. What's your name?" The boy's eyes darted left and right, scanning for something or someone. When he finally spoke, his voice was so quiet, Marcus had to lean forward to hear it. "Please don't tell them I'm alive." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He felt his heart skip, his mind racing to process what he'd just heard. This wasn't just a lost child. This was something much worse. "Tell who, buddy?" Marcus asked gently, fighting to keep his voice calm despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. The boy shook his head violently, tears starting to stream down his face, leaving clean tracks through the dirt. They said if anyone finds me, they'll hurt my sister. They think I'm dead. I have to stay dead." Marcus felt sick. He glanced around the empty park, suddenly aware of how isolated they were. In the distance, a burst of premature fireworks lit up the sky, casting strange shadows through the bridge's metal framework. Okay, Marcus said, holding up his hands in a calming gesture. "Nobody's going to hurt your sister. I promise. But you can't stay out here. You'll freeze." The boy's teeth were chattering now, his whole body shaking. "I've been here since yesterday. I thought if I waited until after New Year's, they'd stop looking." Since yesterday. Marcus's mind reeled. This child had been out in freezing temperatures for over 24 hours. It was a miracle he was still conscious. "What's your name?" Marcus asked again. The boy hesitated for a long moment. "Malik," he finally whispered. "Malik, I'm going to help you, okay? But first, we need to get you somewhere warm. I live just a few blocks away. We can figure this out together." Malik shook his head again. "You don't understand. They have my sister. They said if I told anyone, if anyone saw me." His voice broke into sobs. Marcus made a decision. He shrugged off his heavy coat and held it out. "Here, at least take this." Malik looked at the coat like it might bite him. After a moment, necessity won over fear, and he reached out with shaking hands to take it. The coat swallowed his small frame. "Now listen," Marcus said, pulling out his phone. "I'm not calling the police. Not yet. But I am texting my mother to let her know I'll be late. And then you and I are going to walk to my car, and we're going to my house where it's warm. We'll figure out the rest from there. Deal?" Malik's eyes searched Marcus's face, looking for something truth. safety, hope. Whatever he found there made him nod slightly. Marcus stood slowly and offered his hand. After a heartbeat of hesitation, Malik took it. His small fingers were like ice. As they walked through the empty park, Marcus's mind was spinning. Who was they? Where was Malik's sister? Why did someone want this child to appear dead? Every instinct told him to call 911, but the raw terror in Malik's eyes held him back. He needed more information first. They reached Marcus's old Honda Civic, and he cranked the heat as high as it would go. Malik huddled in the passenger seat, Marcus's coat pulled tight around him. In the light from the dashboard, Marcus could see the boy more clearly. There were bruises on his neck, fading but still visible. His hair was matted, and he had the hollow look of someone who hadn't eaten properly in days. "When did you last eat?" Marcus asked as he pulled out of the parking lot. "I found some chips in a trash can this morning," Malik said quietly. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Okay, first stop, food." He pulled into a drive-thru, ordering chicken nuggets, fries, and a hot chocolate. Malik fell on the food like he was starving, which he probably was. Marcus watched him in the rearview mirror, his mind trying to piece together the puzzle. "My house is safe," Marcus said as they drove through quiet residential streets. Most houses were dark, their occupants downtown for the celebrations. "My mom and daughter are there, but they're good people. They'll help." Malik paused in his eating. "Your daughter, is she safe? Do they stay inside at night?" The question chilled Marcus. "Yes, they're safe." "Why?" "Because they come at night," Malik whispered. "That's when they took Aisha." Aisha, the sister. Marcus pulled into his driveway, a modest two-story house in a working-class neighborhood. The porch light was on, casting a warm glow. Through the window, he could see his mother, Dolores, reading on the couch. "Okay, Malik, here's what's gonna happen. We're going inside. You're gonna get warm, maybe take a bath, get some clean clothes. Then, when you're ready, you can tell me what happened, and we'll figure out how to help your sister, okay?" Malik nodded, but his eyes kept darting to the dark windows of neighboring houses. They entered through the kitchen door. Dolores looked up, her eyes widening as she took in the small boy drowning in Marcus's coat. "Mom," Marcus said, his tone conveying volumes. "This is Malik. He needs our help." To her credit, Dolores didn't ask questions. She'd raised 3 children in Detroit. She knew when to act first and ask later. "Come here, baby," she said to Malik, her voice warm and grandmotherly. "Let's get you warmed up. Marcus, run a bath, not too hot. And get some of Jasmine's cousin's clothes from the guest room closet." As Marcus headed upstairs, he heard his mother's soothing voice. "You hungry, sweetie? I've got some leftover mac and cheese." 45 minutes later, Malik sat on their couch, clean and wearing clothes that actually fit. He'd devoured 2 bowls of mac and cheese and was working on a cup of hot cocoa. Some color had returned to his cheeks, but his eyes still held that haunted look. Jasmine had woken up from the commotion and sat cross-legged on the floor, studying Malik with the frank curiosity of a 9-year-old. "Were you really living outside?" she asked. "Jasmine," Dolores warned. "It's okay," Malik said quietly. He seemed more comfortable with Jasmine than with the adults, as if her innocence made her safer. "Yeah, I was outside. That must have been scary," Jasmine said matter-of-factly. "I get scared when I have to take the trash out at night." A ghost of a smile crossed Malik's face. "Yeah, it was scary." Marcus sat in the armchair across from them, trying to appear relaxed despite the tension coiling in his gut. "Malik, I know this is hard, but we need to know what happened. We want to help you and your sister." Malik's hands tightened around the mug. For a long moment, Marcus thought he wouldn't speak. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, the story came pouring out. "My mom died last year," Malik began. "Cancer. Dad left when I was a baby. It was just me, Aisha, and Mom. When she died, they put us with our aunt, Mom's sister." He paused, taking a shaky breath. At first, it was okay. Aunt Denise was sad about Mom, too. But then, her boyfriend moved in. Rodney. Marcus saw his mother's face harden. They both knew where this was going. Rodney didn't like kids. He especially didn't like that Aunt Denise had to use Mom's death benefits to take care of us. He said we were costing too much money. "How old is Aisha?" Dolores asked gently. 5, Malik said. "She just turned 5 last month. I tried to make her a cake, but Rodney got mad about us using the eggs." Marcus had to look away for a moment, composing himself. 3 days ago, Malik continued, his voice getting smaller, Rodney was really drunk, more than usual. He started yelling about money again, said he knew people who would pay good money for kids, especially pretty little girls like Aisha. The room went absolutely still. Even Jasmine seemed to sense the weight of what was being said. Aunt Denise tried to stop him, but he hit her. Hard. She fell down and didn't get back up. Tears were streaming down Malik's face now. There was blood. A lot of blood. I grabbed Aisha and we ran to our room and locked the door. Marcus's hands were clenched so tight, his knuckles were white. What happened next? Rodney broke down the door. He had friends with him. 2 men I'd never seen before. They grabbed Aisha. She was screaming for me. Malik's voice broke. I tried to fight them, but Rodney hit me with something. When I woke up, I was in the trunk of a car. Jesus! Dolores breathed. I could hear them talking through the back seat. They said they were taking me and Aisha somewhere, that we'd bring good money, but then they stopped for gas, and one of them said there was too much heat, that the cops were already looking for us because a neighbor had called about the screaming. Malik wiped his eyes with his sleeve. They decided to get rid of me, said I was too old anyway, that buyers wanted younger kids. They were going to kill me. What happens next will turn this night upside down, reveal a truth nobody expected, and remind us why sometimes guardian angels come in unexpected forms. Stay tuned to see what happens next. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. The weight of Malik's words hung in the air like smoke. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, the kind of protective fury that only a parent could understand. But he forced himself to stay calm. Malik needed safety, not more anger. How did you escape? Marcus asked, his voice carefully controlled. Malik pulled his knees up to his chest, making himself smaller on the couch. We were driving somewhere outside the city. They pulled over on this dark road near a river. Rodney told the others he'd handle it. Jasmine had moved closer to her grandmother, sensing the darkness in the story, even if she didn't fully understand it. Dolores put a protective arm around her. He dragged me out of the trunk. It was so cold, and there was snow everywhere. He had a gun. Malik's voice was barely audible now. He told me to walk to the edge of the river, said it would be quick. Marcus felt sick. This child, this baby, had stared down death. But when we got to the edge, there was ice. Thin ice. Rodney stepped wrong and his foot went through. He dropped the gun and was trying to pull his leg out. That's when I ran. Smart boy, Dolores murmured. I could hear him screaming behind me, cursing. I just kept running through the woods. I fell so many times. My hands were bleeding from the ice and branches. Malik held up his hands, showing the healing cuts and scrapes. I found a truck stop eventually, hid in the back of a pickup that was headed into the city. When it stopped at a red light, I jumped out and ran again. I remembered this park because Mom used to bring us here for picnics. And you've been hiding under that bridge since then? Marcus asked. Malik nodded. I heard Rodney on the phone before he tried to, before I ran. He was telling someone that they'd have to move the girl sooner because of the heat. Said they'd do it New Year's Day when everyone was distracted by the holiday. That's tomorrow, Marcus said, looking at the clock. It was now past 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Today, Malik corrected. After midnight, Marcus stood up abruptly. We need to call the police. Now. No. Malik jumped up too, panic in his eyes. You promised. They said if anyone finds out I'm alive, they'll kill Aisha. They have people everywhere, even in the police. Rodney bragged about it. Marcus ran his hands over his face. Everything in him screamed to call 911. But the terror in Malik's eyes was real. And if there really were corrupt cops involved? Okay, he said finally. Okay, let me think. Marcus, his mother said quietly, you can't handle this alone. I know someone, Marcus said suddenly. From work. Janet Rodriguez. She's a federal prosecutor. If there's police corruption, the FBI would handle it, not local cops. Hope flickered in Malik's eyes. You think she could help? I know she could. But Malik, we need to move fast. Do you have any idea where they might be keeping Aisha? Malik thought hard. Rodney mentioned a warehouse, said his cousin worked there, that it was perfect because it was closed for the holidays. And, he paused, remembering, I heard a train whistle when they had me in the trunk, really loud, like we were right next to tracks. Marcus grabbed his laptop and pulled up a map of the city. Show me where your aunt lives. Malik pointed to a neighborhood on the east side. Marcus started searching for warehouses near train tracks in that area. There were 3 possibilities. "Mom, can you stay with the kids?" "Where are you going?" Dolores demanded. "To make some calls, and maybe do some reconnaissance." "Marcus Anthony Thompson, you are not going to play hero." "I'm not, Mom. I'm just going to drive by these locations, see if anything looks suspicious. Meanwhile, I'll call Janet, get the feds involved." He looked at Malik. "Is there anything else you can remember? Any detail that might help?" Malik closed his eyes, thinking. "The car they put me in. It had a parking sticker, red and white. Said something about District 7. Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard. "Warehouse District 7. That's the old Benson industrial area." He cross-referenced with the train tracks. "Got it. There's only one warehouse there that fits." He grabbed his keys and phone. "Mom, lock all the doors. Don't answer for anyone except me." "Marcus, I'll be careful. I promise. I'm just going to look." But as he headed for the door, Malik spoke up. "Mr. Marcus?" Marcus turned back. "Thank you," the boy whispered, "for believing me." Marcus knelt beside him. "We're going to get your sister back. I promise." As he drove through the empty streets, Marcus made the call to Janet Rodriguez. It went to voicemail, of course. It was New Year's Eve. He left a detailed message, giving Malik's location and the warehouse address. The Benson industrial area was exactly as depressing as Marcus expected. Empty lots, chain-link fences, and abandoned buildings that looked like they hadn't seen legitimate business in years. Perfect for criminal activity. He parked a block away from the warehouse Malik had identified and walked closer on foot. The building was dark except for a single light in what looked like an office area. 2 cars were parked outside a black SUV and a sedan with a red and white District 7 parking sticker. Marcus's heart raced. This could be it. He was about to head back to his car to wait for Janet to call back when he heard a child crying, high-pitched, scared, and definitely coming from inside the warehouse. Every rational part of his brain told him to leave, to wait for law enforcement. But that crying? If that was Aisha, and they were planning to move her after midnight, there might not be time. Marcus crept closer, staying in the shadows. Through a dirty window, he could see into the lit office. 3 men sat around a table playing cards. One of them he recognized from Malik's description, Rodney. Tall, thin, with a snake tattoo on his neck. And there, in the corner, on a dirty mattress, was a little girl. She had the same deep brown skin as Malik, the same eyes. She was hugging a dirty teddy bear and crying quietly. Marcus's decision was made. He pulled out his phone and started recording video, making sure to get clear shots of the men's faces and the license plates. Then he dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Marcus kept his voice low but urgent. There's a kidnapped child at the Benson Industrial Warehouse on Clement Street. The kidnappers are armed and planning to traffic her. Send units immediately, but be aware there may be police corruption involved. Contact FBI Special Agent Janet Rodriguez. Sir, can you? Marcus hung up and immediately sent the video to Janet's email with a message. Malik is safe with me. Sister is here. Called 911 but need federal backup as soon as possible. He was about to retreat to his car when everything went wrong. The warehouse door burst open and Rodney stepped out, cigarette in hand. He looked directly at Marcus's hiding spot. Well, well, Rodney said, his voice carrying across the empty lot. Looks like we got company. Marcus ran behind him. He heard shouting and car doors slamming. An engine roared to life. Marcus sprinted through the maze of abandoned buildings, his breath coming in gasps. He could hear the car gaining on him. He ducked between 2 buildings, pressing himself against a wall. The car screeched past. Marcus waited, heart pounding, then made a break for his own vehicle. He almost made it. A hand grabbed his shoulder and spun him around. One of Rodney's associates, a burly man with dead eyes. Marcus didn't think. Years of boxing at the community center kicked in. He ducked under the man's swing and delivered a solid uppercut to his solar plexus. The man doubled over, gasping, but then Rodney appeared, and he had a gun. You just couldn't mind your business, could you? Rodney snarled. Marcus raised his hand slowly. The cops are already on their way. It's over. Then I guess I better hurry. Rodney's finger tightened on the trigger. The gunshot was deafening in the empty street. But it wasn't Rodney's gun that fired. The drug dealer crumpled to the ground, clutching his shoulder. Behind him stood FBI agent Janet Rodriguez, her service weapon trained on the fallen man. Several other agents swarmed the area. "Marcus, you absolute idiot," Janet said, not lowering her weapon. "What part of wait for backup don't you understand?" "I got your message," she continued, cuffing Rodney. "We were already investigating this trafficking ring. Your call just gave us the probable cause we needed." Within minutes, the warehouse was surrounded. Marcus watched from a safe distance as agents let out the other 2 men in handcuffs. And then, the moment that made everything worth it, an agent emerged carrying a little girl. "Aisha!" Marcus called out. The girl looked up, confused and scared. But then her face transformed. "Malik?" she cried out. "Where's Malik?" "He's safe," Marcus assured her, jogging over. "He's at my house. You're going to see him real soon." The reunion at Marcus's house was everything. Malik burst through the door and flew into his sister's arms. They clung to each other, both sobbing. Aisha wouldn't let go of her brother, her small arms locked around his neck. "I thought you were gone," she whispered. "Aunt Denise wouldn't wake up and they said you were gone forever." "I'm here," Malik promised. "I'm not going anywhere." Janet Rodriguez sat at Marcus's kitchen table, taking statements and making calls. The trafficking ring was bigger than just Rodney. They'd uncovered connections to several missing children cases across 3 states. The corrupt officers were being arrested as they spoke. "What happens to them now?" Dolores asked, watching the siblings who had finally fallen asleep on the couch, still holding hands. "Well, their aunt is deceased," Janet said. "They'll need placement. Foster care, most likely." Marcus looked at the 2 children curled together. He thought about Jasmine, who had lost her mother to divorce but still had family. These kids had no one but each other. "What about us?" he heard himself say. Everyone turned to look at him. "I mean, they know us now. They trust us. Jasmine's already attached. We have the room." "Marcus," his mother said softly, "that's a big decision. I know, but look at them, Mom. They've been through hell. They need stability, safety. We can give them that." Janet studied him. "It's not that simple. There's paperwork, home studies, background checks." "Then let's start," Marcus said firmly. "Tonight, they stay here. Tomorrow, we figure out the rest." 6 months later, Marcus stood in a courtroom wearing his best suit, not the old one from his marriage, but a new one Jasmine had helped pick out. Beside him, Malik stood tall in his own little suit, holding Aisha's hand. She wore a purple dress with flowers that Dolores had spent hours picking out. "Mr. Thompson," the judge said, looking over her glasses, "you understand that by accepting guardianship of these children, you're making a lifetime commitment?" "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said clearly. "I understand. And you've completed all required training, home studies, and background checks?" "Yes, Your Honor." The judge turned to the children. "Malik, Aisha, do you want to live with Mr. Thompson and his family?" "Yes," Aisha said immediately, bouncing on her toes. Malik was more solemn. "Yes, Your Honor. They saved us. They're our family now." The judge smiled. "Then, by the power vested in me by the state of Michigan, I grant full guardianship of Malik and Aisha Stevens to Marcus Thompson. Congratulations to your new family." The courtroom erupted in applause. Jasmine, who had been fidgeting in the front row, ran up to hug her new siblings. Dolores wiped tears from her eyes. That night, they had a celebration dinner at home. The table that had once seemed too big for just 3 now felt perfectly sized for 6. Malik had come out of his shell over the months, laughing and joking with Jasmine. Aisha had wrapped everyone around her little finger, especially Dolores, who spoiled her rotten. "Mr. Marcus," Malik said as they cleared the dishes. "Just Marcus is fine." Marcus reminded him for the 100th time. "Or Dad if you want." Malik smiled shyly. "Dad, why did you help me that night? You didn't know me. I could have been lying." Marcus put down the dish he was drying and looked at the boy who'd become his son. "Because everybody deserves someone who believes them. Everybody deserves to be saved. You saved us." Aisha piped up from where she was coloring at the table. "No," Marcus said, looking around at his expanded family. "We saved each other." Later that evening, as fireworks lit up the sky, this time in July for the 4th, rather than New Year's, Marcus stood on his back porch watching his 3 children play. They were having a water balloon fight, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood. Dolores joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "You did good, son. I just did what anyone would do." "No," she said firmly. "You did what you would do. Not everyone would have stopped for that boy. Not everyone would have fought for them." Marcus thought about that cold New Year's Eve, about the boy hiding under a bridge, convinced he had to stay dead to save his sister. He thought about how close they'd come to losing both children forever to a darkness that preyed on the vulnerable. "They're tough kids," he said. "They are. But they're also just kids. They deserve to be safe, to be loved." As if hearing her, Malik looked up from the game and waved at them, his smile bright and genuine. No more shadows in his eyes, no more fear, just joy. Marcus waved back, his heart full. He'd started his New Year's Eve walk 3 years ago as a way to mourn what he'd lost. But this past New Year's Eve, he'd found something he didn't even know he was looking for, a purpose bigger than his pain, a family larger than he'd ever imagined. Some people said there were no accidents, that everything happened for a reason. Marcus didn't know about that. All he knew was that on the coldest night of the year, when a scared little boy whispered, "Please don't tell them I'm alive," Marcus had made a choice. And that choice had changed everything. As the summer evenings settled into night, Marcus gathered his 3 children for bedtime. Malik read to Aisha while Jasmine braided her hair. They developed their own routines, their own sibling dynamics. Sometimes they fought, like all siblings did. But underneath it all was an unshakable bond, forged in crisis and strengthened by love. "Dad," Malik said as Marcus tucked him in, "I'm glad you found me that night." "Me too, son," Marcus said, ruffling his hair. "Me too." In the room next door, Aisha called out, "Good night, Daddy Marcus." "Good night, Princess." And from Jasmine's room, "Night, Dad. Love you. Love you too, baby girl." Marcus stood in the hallway between their rooms, listening to his house settle into sleep. 3 children who had found their way to him through different paths, 1 by birth, 2 by chance and choice. But all 3 were his, completely and forever. Outside, the world continued with all its darkness and light. There were other children hiding under bridges, other families torn apart by violence and greed. Marcus couldn't save them all, but he'd saved 2, and they'd saved him right back. As he headed to his own room, Marcus paused by the window. The same stars that had witnessed a terrified boy's desperate flight now looked down on a home filled with healing and hope. Somewhere out there, another child might be praying for rescue, for someone to believe them, for a chance at safety. Marcus offered up a silent prayer of his own gratitude for the children sleeping peacefully in their beds, for his mother's unwavering support, for Janet Rodriguez and her team, for second chances and new beginnings, and for a 7-year-old boy's courage to trust a stranger on the coldest night of the year. That trust had built a family. That faith had saved lives. That moment beneath a bridge had changed everything. Some angels, Marcus thought, as he finally drifted off to sleep, come in the most unexpected forms. Sometimes they're found in the shadows, waiting for someone to see them, to believe them, to choose them. And sometimes, in choosing them, we find that they were the ones who saved us all along. In the morning, there would be breakfast, chaos, and arguments over cartoons. There would be homework and chores and all the beautiful mundane moments that make up a family. But tonight, everyone was safe. Everyone was home. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that one act of courage can change everything, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Click on one of the stories on your screen right now for more incredible tales that will restore your faith in humanity. Remember, we all have the power to make a difference. Sometimes it just takes one moment of choosing to act. Until next time, stay strong and keep spreading kindness.